So what's your role in drug testing in the Francis House School District or at North?
Okay. Through activities, we started the program, I believe it was like 2006, and my role in it is we call down the students who are random drug tested. The company itself comes up with the list of students who are randomly selected through their ID number. We call those students down, and then we take them to a secure private restroom where the agency comes in and then they perform the actual test itself. So basically we call the students down and then we write them passes back to class. After that is kind of where I get more involved if we would have a positive test or a non-negative test. That's where my role would come in more, and that would be more of talking with parents, talking with the student, getting them in touch with a possible counseling program, which right now we run through Bridgeway, or Bridgeway is offered to parents free of charge. So we set up a lot of those types of things if we do have a non-negative.
And so the district decides who gets tested here at North?
No, there's a random pool, and basically if a student is in any type of activity, a club, a sport, that is sponsored by the school district, for instance, if you play football, soccer, if you're in a club, like if you're an officer of student council or if you're an officer of KOE, or if you park your car, then any of those extracurricular activities, those students' names are put into a random pool. And then out of that pool, we choose 8 students per week to be tested. And by choose, it means we get the numbers from the drug testing company, and we call down the students.
And according to results, drug use has gone down in our schools, correct?
I believe that is true. I'm sure there's some people that could verify that a little bit better than I do, because I don't really get all the results with the drug use. I guess the question is somebody who's being disciplined for possession of drugs, does that have a direct reflection on our drug testing program? Don't know, because if they're not in any activities, that person may not be in the drug testing program. So, okay. I think Dr. Patterson will be able to answer that for you.
All right. And you kind of went over this already, but like the way students are determined to get drug testing, they're put into a random pool depending on if they're in a club or if they park their car. Correct. Just any school-sponsored activities, right?
Correct. We have a drug testing consent form. If they're going to be in a activity or a club, they take it home, they sign it, parents sign it, they bring it back to school. Then what we do is we enter it into the random drug testing pool, which is a selection. It's just basically, these are the kids who do something at our school and they're going to get drug tested. They could have the possibility of getting drug tested. Then the company itself generates 8 numbers per week for us. So we will test 8 students per week. Actually, they give us more than 8 numbers, but if somebody is absent or gone for the day, then we would go to the next student. But
so about how many names do they give you?
Usually we double it to 16. Mm-hmm.
But you only call 8?
We only do it. We do the first 8 that are here. There's actually two things. There's a selection pool, which these 8 are selected. If one of these 8 are not here at school, they're absent, then what we do is we have an alternative list, and we would call the first person on the list. So we basically test until we get 8 people.
And you said the company generates names. Who's the company?
We have a new company this year, and it's called Employee Screening Services, I think is the last part of it. So they bring in everything with them, all their testing products there. They have somebody that will come here on our test date, and then they take all the stuff with them and send it to labs and do all that stuff. So it's really, we don't handle any of that part.
So, are you aware that like the same student can get selected to drug test like multiple times
Sure.
in a month?
Sure.
And so, if it's so random, like how does that happen? Because there has to be many names to choose from in the
Mhm.
pool. Like, is it just purely random, or is there a little like, if somebody like were to suggest like, hey, I think this person might be doing drugs, would the company go off of the suggestions, or would they just only do purely random?
It is
names?
purely random. They have to, and that's part of being a true random drug test, that those names, basically, you have to add that name or that number, whatever you're going from, back into the list, even if you tested them this week, and it could be pulled again. I'm not completely sure, but I believe it is computer generated with the list of student numbers that come up. And yes, you could be called, 3 times in a row. So, I mean, it doesn't happen a lot, but it has happened.
So about how many students in the Francis House School District get drug tested monthly? Like, is it 8 for every, or 16 for every?
It's eight.
school?
It's 8 for every school. So, with the 3 schools, so that's 24 students per week. If there's 4 weeks, then is that 96?
I'm not too good at math in my head. I'm sure I can figure it out later, though. So how many come back positive?
How many? It just depends. I really wouldn't be able to give you probably a true number. Probably, I think over the past few years we've been averaging, maybe 4 or 5 a year. Some years we've had more. It just really depends on year to year.
So how does the amount of students who test positively compare over the years?
I've never run that report. I think that just off the top of my head, it would probably be a decrease of the positive that I've had from over the years. But I'd have to really look into that.
So when a student's selected to be drug tested, what do they have to do?
The actual student, they would come down. There is a form. They've already signed a consent form with their parents, but we have a form that is basically saying that, verifying that they are being tested today. So we hand that to the student, they sign it, and then we take them down to the private restroom, and the nurse from the company already has everything prepped and ready to go. And they go in, they produce a urine sample, and when they're finished with that, they come back to our office, we write a note and send them back to class.
Now, when a student's drug test comes back positive, what are the steps taken by North or the district to, after it comes back positive?
Well, what happens is I receive a notification from the company that would say that we would have a positive test or a non-negative test, however you want to word it. That company has already usually contacted the parents, so then I follow up with a call to the parents and ask them if they have any questions about the program, any questions about anything. What my role is if they are in an activity or a club at that time, or if they park their car, then that would be, we would follow the policy on that. And then also is to give them
What
information.
exactly is the policy?
It would be 10 days, 10 days suspended from the activity, not from school, but it's from the activity that you're participating in. So, for instance, if you are an athlete and you're in season on that as an athlete, then you would have 10 school days that you would not be able to participate in that sport or activity.
Now, if they don't, say, one of the years they return positive for drug testing, and then they don't go through the program, and they're suspended from that activity for the rest of the year,
Mm-hmm.
will that carry on to the next year as well?
Yes, 365 days. So if it happens September 1st, you wouldn't be eligible till September 1st of the next year.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, like,
It's a 1 year.
okay, so
Basically.
it doesn't, like,
It's not one school year. It's
after
it's-
that September 1st, they're fine, they can get back into that
Correct.
activity?
Mhm.
Okay. So what happens when a student's drug test comes back positive more than once?
You're asking me questions that I'd have to pull out the policy and read a policy on. If it's more than once, there is more days than the 10-day suspension from the activity, and then that would probably be taken up with at central office through school discipline, or not school discipline for the drug testing, but probably have to look into more of Bridgeway counseling of, okay, we did this program once, maybe it needs a little bit more attention, maybe it needs a little bit more intense counseling. So. And actually, while we've been testing, I haven't had somebody come up twice, so that's why I would have to look up what we had to do.
So, do you believe that the number of students using drugs really has gone down, or rather the number of students getting caught using drugs has gone down?
I'm not really sure because I don't know the number that we're starting with. I think that students do use it as a deterrent. I do know that the number of students that come back positive over the years has been not kids that have been involved with activities. You may have the kids that just come to school and they park their car, but we have not had a significant number by any means of the sports person who is in season gets drug tested and is found positive for drugs. Students can be in the drug testing program for many reasons. Like I said, activities, athletics, parking. It could be that parents signed up to put them in. So there's many different reasons of why students are in there. So it's not just that, it's the athletes or students involved in activities, and actually the ones that we are finding positive, or almost just the opposite of, they are the ones that aren't necessarily involved with the activities and after school stuff. So that's kind of what we would like to see, is more students involved in the extracurricular activities, because it kind of keeps you out of trouble on the outside of the school hours.
So what are your expectations for drug use at North?
My expectation is that we would have no drug testing positives and we wouldn't have drugs in our school. That's my expectation.
Do you feel this is realistic?
I do. I think that, like I said, I think that kids kind of look down upon it. More kids look down upon it, but you always have some kids that make bad choices. And so we're probably always going to have that. But if we can keep those numbers down, and the biggest thing with the drug testing was we want it to be a deterrent for the kids. We want to be able to have kids that go to a party and say, no, I may be drug tested Monday morning. I'm not going to do that. And even if it's kind of like, it gives them an out. And I think that's important for the kids to have that opportunity, to use that opportunity if that comes up.
So who all is in charge of drug testing for for the district or at North?
At North, it's primarily me, myself. So, and then at the district is Dr. Patterson, and then before that, probably it was Todd Burke, who is a dean of students at House Central and the head football coach. He was the one that kind of really got the ball rolling a few years ago for the drug testing program, did a lot of research on it, helped with the committee. He kind of led us into the direction where we needed to go. And then
And who is this?
it's Todd Burke, B-E-R-C-K. He's a dean of students at FHC. And football coach, head football coach. So he'd probably be a good resource for you.
And then you said primarily at North it's yourself. Is there anyone else who aids you in this?
No, but each activities director at each of the high schools. So no, I mean, I guess my only other aide would be my my administrative assistant. But other than that, it's myself.
Okay.
This is just a question that could possibly help you. What happens if someone cheats on it?
If someone cheats on it, there are steps that are in place that the drug testing company takes to basically solve that from happening. With getting into a urine sample, there are certain things. The toilets are dyed blue when you come in. When you produce your sample in the testing cup, usually there is a temperature gauge on it, so they can tell right then and there your body temperature is 98.6. Your urine should be pretty close to that. So there are some things that are taking place. You can't take anything in with you. They may have you empty your pockets or whatever, but and it changes. Sometimes time changes, sometimes day changes. So it's not like Monday morning, every Monday morning, we're doing drug testing, because it changes from week to week, just randomly. So, and that's just so we don't have that consistent day that everyone knows that drug testing is happening. So we kind of change that up.
And you said the toilets were dyed blue. Like, what does that do for the drug testing?
That somebody just can't dip the cup in the water
Gotcha.
and say, here it is. This
Okay.
is, I mean.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Do you have something to say?
What happens if someone does get caught?
We would take it as a positive right away. If we have somebody who refuses the test, or is basically we know that they were trying to cheat the system, then they would be looked at as a positive, and we would take that as just as a positive. They would have their 10 days out of activity. They would follow those steps. So, good question.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I know the drug testing. It takes money to do, and I know that I think the board has made a very large statement with having the cuts that we have had and keeping the drug testing program around. I think that we understand that it is important. I'm sure that you're going to find out, probably through Dr. Patterson, that there are some numbers in our district with behavior and discipline that may reflect some things of why we're keeping the drug testing around. I would actually be interested to know some of those. But I think it's a good program, and actually, since we've been doing it, it's kind of like, I don't even know if people really realize that we still do it on a weekly basis, because it's not really a disruption to the school. So I don't think it's a big deal with students anymore. The first year it was kind of course it's new, it's changed. There was a lot of talk about it, and since then it's just kind of, it runs itself. It runs pretty smooth. Now we have a new drug testing company, so we expect it to run, just as smooth as it has before. So some of the things about dyeing the water blue and stuff, that's some of the things that the old company did that,
What
I'm
was the old
assuming.
company that you guys went through?
They were called Clinical Collections. management, I believe. And it was basically a contract that the school district had with them, and their contract basically expired, and then you get to put it out for bid through different companies. So
When did the contract expire?
I'm not sure on that, but the board voted the new company in sometime this past summer. So, and Dr. Patterson would probably know that, but